Hello everyone, this is Trisha Wolfrey from Your Empowered Self and Ahead for Success in my series Let's Talk Stress. And today I've got Dyer, who's a garden whisperer. So Joe, tell us, what is it that attracted you to this kind of career?
Well, I've always loved gardens. I've always loved flowers. I've always been interested in food and healthy eating. But it's not my first career. I used to be a lecturer in higher education. But in my heart, I think I wanted to be outdoors with the plants. And so I gave myself that opportunity a long time ago now, nearly 20 years ago. And what got me started was really, I think, in my own garden as a child. I was given my own corner of the garden where I was given the chance to grow things, and I just loved it. I just loved it. I've always loved them. But when I first started gardening, I wanted to grow healthy, organic, beautiful vegetables and fruits for posh restaurants. That's what I wanted to do.
Delicious.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, because I just wanted to provide beautiful food for people who knew what to do with it, good chefs who knew what to do with beautiful food so that they created lovely, nutritious meals for people. That's what I wanted to do. But it's evolved quite considerably since
Yeah,
then into
I
what it is
know.
now.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Let's talk first about what is it that stresses you out
What stresses me out
in life?
in life? There's one thing that upsets me and stresses me, and that is the news on the television or reading newspapers. And I find it upsetting and distressing, and my blood pressure goes up when I watch it, because there's not enough good news on the television and or in the papers, and it gives a skewed version of what the world is like and what human beings are like, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's so much brutality and cruelty, and me being an organic, planet-friendly person, my whole life revolves around living sustainably. News about climate change and all this kind of thing, I find it really, really upsetting. So my very simple strategy for dealing with that is not to watch, not to watch, and not to read newspapers. So I haven't read newspapers for ages, for years.
I mean, they are very much sensationalized, aren't they? Because they have to sell the papers, they have to get the viewers, so they make them sensationalized. I knew somebody who was a cameraman, and he said what is actually going on is not the same as what you see on the news, because they have to make it so that people are stuck. They stay through the whole program because there's so much competition for people's attention. So it doesn't help people's mental health at all, and especially at the moment there's a lot of fear around.
Well, that's right. And I mean, in some ways you could say that's irresponsible, but
I would absolutely say that's irresponsible.
Yeah. I mean, I've been like this. It's not just because of the current situation that I feel like this. For many, many years, I've always got upset. I'm a sensitive soul, and I get very upset by things. So to my survival strategy and my de-stressing strategy is not to watch, and I watch a little bit and then I switch off.
Yeah.
And the thing that really helps me is to be outside with nature in my garden and other people's gardens where I work with them.
Wonderful segue.
It's a good segue, yeah.
Good segue, perfectly done. So let's have a look at how gardening can help people with their stress.
Right, well, there's so many ways that gardening can help with stress. The main way, I think, is that it is about connecting with love. And love is so important. Love is the most powerful emotion that we have as human beings. And when we go into a garden and tend our garden, nurture our garden, the clue is there. We are expressing love for that space. And it's all about the energy of life. A garden is a living thing. The flowers, the soil, the trees, they're all alive. and you get your hands connected with them. You are physically connected with them, and you are connecting with that life, and you can slow down, you can breathe deeper, you're in the air, you know, you're with other animals, you know, insects and other creatures, and you're just connecting with the energy of life, and you are expressing love, and you are connecting.
It's a great antidote for those headlines that you know we're
Yes.
kind of assaulted with at the moment, isn't it? It kind of just brings you down to earth again, and it's also quite a good metaphor for life. You know, digging things out that you don't need anymore, letting things fall that you don't need anymore, and sowing seeds for what you do need more of, and tending those and nurturing those is a good metaphor for how to be with yourself as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say though to people who got young families who might think, I haven't got any time for all of that. I'm
Well,
busy enough
yeah.
as it is.
Yes, yes, that's the thing I hear the most from people, is I don't have time, and people are time poor, and that is a reality. And especially when you know, if you're a working mum and dad, you know, with young children, your life revolves around them. And but being in the garden is a family affair, you know, it's a family thing. You don't, and you don't have to have a lot of time to be in the garden. It needn't take a lot of time, but it can be the most wonderful way of connecting and bonding and having quality time together. And there are so many wonderful things in the garden for kids, you know. There are all these worms for, you know, for a start, you know. There are worms, and there are frogs, and there are wonderful creatures, and there are lots and lots of projects and things that you can do to get the small children, young children
And they
involved.
could almost have a little part of the garden for themselves where they grow something and
Absolutely, they love it. They love it.
learn the, I suppose worms and frogs have a functional value somewhere,
Oh,
do they?
absolutely. Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
I was never brought up to know any of that stuff because I
Oh,
just like, look.
yeah. No, no. Worms are so
Okay.
important, and frogs eat slugs. So, you know, they are to be
So we
encouraged.
need more frogs.
We need more
Not
frogs,
to
and we
kiss.
need as many worms as we can get, because they look after the soil. Worms look after the soil.
Ah.
So, oh yeah, this is not a gardening lesson, but
No.
worms
Okay.
look after the soil.
So involve your family
Yeah.
because that's a way of them managing their stress as well, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it's you'll all get fresh air. You'll all be outside, you know, and you'll be interacting in a really positive, special way. You know, there's nothing more lovely, I don't think, than if you know, you spot something in the garden that you've never seen before, you know, and you go, oh, look what I found, you know, look what I found, look at this, you know, look at this, and everybody marvels at it because it's something new and strange, you know, and you can have quite a few adventures in the garden. Yeah, it's quite an adventure.
What would you say, Joe, to you know, there are some people who think, well, I can't, it's not my kind of thing. I can't be bothered. What would you say to those people?
Well, if you can't be bothered, I mean, it's, you know, yeah, I mean, it's, I think a lot of people, we have gardens. A lot of people, you know, in this country, we have gardens, and gardens, you know, they're a bit like housework for some people. And I hate housework, but if you just start very, small, because if you have a garden, it needs to be looked after. Otherwise it's going to be awful, and you're you know, and you're going to feel awful about it. So just start very small, and just, I would say, just go and have a look at it, and find out what there is out there, because it isn't what you think it is. It's a whole universe of wonderful, you know, creatures and life that are fascinating. You know, they are fascinating, and so many people get hooked. You know, they start thinking, oh, you know, I've got to look after my garden or whatever. But once you start caring for a garden, you start noticing the colour of a flower. Go and look at it closely, and look how intricate it is, and look at the beautiful way that the petals are formed. You know, there is beauty there, and people find themselves getting drawn in. You know,
I think there's certainly, I know some people that they found that they weren't interested and they became interested once they started to tend it, usually because they had to keep it tidy, and then they plant something, and then there's such a pleasure in seeing something that you've planted or you've tended grow and flourish.
Yes.
I was with my in-laws this weekend, and my sister-in-law gave me a package of rhubarb from her garden, green beans, and also tomatoes. And it was so lovely to be given such a beautiful gift. My husband is trying to wave at me. He wouldn't stop. Now it's... I'm doing a video. Anyway, so it was so lovely that she was able to give me something. It was better than if she'd bought me something from a shop.
Mm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just so lovely.
It comes from the heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and so that's going to be not all in the same meal. I don't think rhubarb goes with. I know I'm going to do the rhubarb, but you know, it's just. I just thought it was a beautiful thing. Anyway, and you've got a book that you'd like to recommend as well.
Yes, the book I'd like to recommend is this book. It's by Alan Shepard, and it's called The Organic Garden.
Oh, lovely.
Gardening for a Healthy Planet.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's got the eco credentials in there as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, growing organically, that means without using pesticides, you know, things to kill creatures, and artificial fertilizers that are based on oil. You know, they're an oil-based product, so it's not sustainable. So this is all about sustainability and looking after the planet and the creatures in the garden.
Yeah, and the plants in the garden.
I mean, all of us. It's about looking after all of us. It's not, you know, because we are all part of that web of life. This is the important thing. You know, we are all.
So the creatures, I don't like to think of creatures. I'm a bit wimpish, to be honest with you. But they're there. Honestly, they're there for a reason, aren't they? And I think if we understand that, you know, they're there and they serve a purpose that is good, then view them not as kind of things we want to get rid of, but things
we are all enmeshed.
We're
all enmeshed in this web of life, and we are all interrelated and interconnected and interdependent.
Oh, beautiful note to end on. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Well, that's lovely talking to you, Jo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You take care now. And by the way, everyone, I will put Jo's details underneath on the comments. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.